So my name's Judith Dwyer. I have had a long career as a healthcare manager and also as a healthcare academic. I'm now retired and very much enjoying my retirement. I'm a mother and a grandmother, and I had one too. This is a long time ago. I worked out it's 49 years ago. I was a 20-year-old student in Brisbane. And this is a complete stereotypical story, right? I was a virgin. I fell for a bloke in my friendship circle. He told me that he was infertile, and I think he believed it to be true. And I can't say that I got pregnant the very first time that I had sex, but it was like in the first week. That was the unlucky story. So I went to the local doctor, an older man, who examined me and told me that I was pregnant. And I said, well, I can't possibly have a baby now. What can I do? And he said, well, I can't help you, but ask around at the university. Someone will have a name. So I did, and I got a name and a phone number, and I rang it. I went to see this doctor who was very nice, and he told me to bring $200, to bring a pad, and to take the half a tablet of Valium that he gave me to help me relax right before, I was arriving. So the bloke was backing away at a great rate by then, but I think I managed to get him to pay half of the $200. I was living on a Commonwealth scholarship at the time, and my weekly allowance was $10. So that was like 20 weeks worth of my allowance. But I had a little money put aside for a rainy day, and I think I got some out of him. And he couldn't come with me on the day, but two other mutual friends of ours took me there. But anyway, it all went well. He was actually a very good doctor. He was careful, he was respectful, and this is 1971, he had the then new vacuum machine, which he'd imported from Europe. So he was actually using the safest technique that was available, and it all went well. Then when I got back out on the street, crying with relief, I think, the two blokes who dropped me off were actually still in the pub having a beer, and so that was pretty awful. It all worked out, and I was fine, and it didn't have any negative effects on my fertility or anything else. And fortunately, the police didn't show up. It was completely illegal. I mean, the law's only been reformed. It got softened in Queensland through some cases, but the actual statute law's only been reformed last year. Children by Choice got going, and they made a big difference. Women could ring them, and they would arrange for them to go south of the border, to Sydney or somewhere else in New South Wales, where it was illegal there too, but there was more supply and the penalties weren't as stiff. So I went to Canada, and I worked in the women's health movement there. And I came back to Australia and again worked in women's health. I had a great career, and I really enjoyed a lot of my experiences. I spent 3 years as the chief exec of the Family Planning Association, as it was called then, now called Shine, in South Australia. And that was also a really excellent experience and a wonderful service. I could feel really good about what I was doing at work. The laws changed here in 1969, very much based on the model of the reformed laws in England. They happened in 67 in England, and we followed in 69 with almost identical laws. And they wrote all sorts of restrictions about how the services could be delivered, which were and are workable. Right? I mean, a service is delivered in the public sector and in the private sector as well, but mostly in the public sector. And it works. It's sort of clunky, but basically, if you really want an abortion, you can get one as long as you get there early enough. But you can't get an early medication abortion in the way that you should be able to, because the laws, written when there was no such thing, say that an abortion has to be performed in a prescribed hospital, and the woman has to be examined by 2 doctors. Well, in the rest of the world, and in the rest of the country, actually, women can get an early medication abortion at a GP, and that's the way it's supposed to work, which it doesn't work that way in South Australia. There is no reason why women or staff should have to put up with harassment when they're going to receive a legal healthcare service. They have the same dignity and the same right to privacy as anybody else attending for healthcare or providing healthcare. And I'm really hopeful that we will soon have. We are one of the last 2 states who don't have safe access zones, and I'm really hopeful that we will soon have them. The area that people find harder is abortion after 20 weeks, and it is harder. I mean, it's a more serious thing. It's a more serious thing for everybody. I've worked in this area, and I've spoken with lots of people who've worked in this area for many years in their career, and I have never heard of the story of a woman who requests or decides that she has to have an abortion after 20 weeks for trivial reasons. It just doesn't happen in real life. It is not a thing. And the nurses and doctors and physiotherapists and psychiatrists and Aboriginal health practitioners and everyone else who's involved in the healthcare team, that none of them take it lightly either. And they make clinically appropriate recommendations. And that is then, under health law, it is then up to the woman to give informed consent to any treatment. And that all can work really well. It makes, if they lift the upper limit, which is currently in place in South Australia for practical purposes, 24 weeks, it won't increase the number of abortions. It will just increase the quality of the care and the safety of the decisions that women are making and the care that they receive. So I'm really hopeful that that upper limit, that hard legal upper limit, will be removed. Because at the moment, if you are in, terrible family violence situation, or you've got cancer, or you've got a very malformed fetus, doesn't matter what the reason, at 24 weeks, you've got to go interstate or overseas to get an abortion. And that's just not right. That's ridiculous in this day and age. And I'm hopeful that this year, that situation will be resolved and women will be able to receive healthcare like everybody else.